talk about accountability a lot. You just can't have accountability within your locker room if you're not willing to communicate. Your players want it. You have to be honest with them. You have to be able to tell them when they're doing something wrong. It doesn't matter who they are, but you also have to be able to tell them when they're doing good things too. And I don't think coaches can be afraid of that. And that's part of building that trust with a player. If he only hears negative or when he's doing bad, it's going to be hard for him. He's got to hear some positive things as well.
There's so much that goes into a game and building for that. How would you describe your practices, and how much prep time do you put into it, so that these guys out here can, maybe gauge where they're at and their preparation when it goes to getting the kids on the ice?
Well, I think it depends on the schedule that you have. In the AHL, you'll have nights where you're playing 4 games and 6 nights. You're worrying about your game tape, showing a team certain plays that you need, so you don't have a lot of time to prepare for practice. But when we have a long week, and which happens a lot in minor hockey, where you've got 3-4 days, we put a lot of preparation. We look at where our team's at. We look at areas that we have to work on. We'll look at the opponent we're going to play next, and then we'll, as a group, as a staff, we'll put together a practice plan that'll not only get us ready for the next game, help us in our previous game, but also help with skill development as well.
Do you have a bag of drills that you go to, or are you constantly changing it up, freshening it up? How does that work for you?
We've probably got 40 drills that we use throughout the season. I use them by name. Peterborough, Flames, Ducks passing. And the way I do things is I have a big whiteboard that I hang, and it's almost like a rink board, but I have the rink taken off, and I'll have practice written out in bold letters. A lot of coaches I've seen, most coaches have it on a piece of paper where they tape it to the glass. I have it on a big whiteboard, so when the players are skating around the ice, 6 weeks into the year, they know what drill's coming. I don't like to go to the board at all during practice. I will do all my boarding before practice. They'll know most of the drills. Like I said, 6 weeks, 2 months into the year, they'll know them. And practice is not stopped unless it's, I'm harping on something that they might have screwed up on.
So for those who coach at maybe a lower level, what is that fine line of letting them maybe fail a little bit before you step in? Like, you've been around the game of hockey a lot. At what point should a coach look at it and go, okay, enough is enough, I have to step in? Or maybe we just let this go a little bit to see if they'll correct it themselves.
It's a fine line. I coach my son's 13-year-old team in the summer and run practices, and I actually use a lot of the same drills that I use with our team, and I struggle with it. There's times when I want to blow the whistle and yell at them and chase them around the rink, and you have to realize where your team's at. I think at any level, it's so vital to be honest with your group and realize where they're at and know when they're off. I can't yell at these 13-year-old kids because they're not passing like pros, but I also have to figure it out fast. Okay, what are they capable of? Are they having a bad day? Do they need a kick in the ass? Or are they just some of them? And, that's really the truth. And you've got to realize it quick, or you're going to be stopping practice all the time.
Yeah, I guess there's no one way of dealing with players, is there, nowadays? I mean, it used to be maybe more militaristic when, we grew up, but now one kid may need that hug, one may need the pat on the back, and as you said, one may need a kick in the ass. How do you quickly assess that and go through the process of making sure you're pushing the right buttons?
I don't know if it's, I don't think you can sit there and say how you're going to do that. I just think you have to be caring. They have to know that you're in it for the right reasons. Obviously, some coaches are more demanding than others. Some coaches will let you get away with more, some won't. I know that I'm demanding, but I also know that my players know that I'm in it for the best for them.
When you're being demanding, can you have rules for everyone? And I say that in an example. Maybe there's a kid who their practice habits aren't the best, but they might be your best player, and they might perform really well in games. And kids know what's fair, what's not fair, and sometimes human nature, you may treat that player a little differently. How important is it to keep that message consistent, or can you do that?
I think you have to be consistent with certain things. Effort for me is non-negotiable. I'm not a big believer in having your best player. You've seen it in lots of levels where your best player maybe gets a little more rope than other players, and to a point that happens during games, but during practice it's non-negotiable. Everyone's going to work, everyone's going to skate hard, everyone's going to going to bring their best every day. And I just think that's where you start with your culture right there. Certain things are negotiable. I'm not a big rule guy. I really don't set rules. I don't like to run it that way. If something happens, you're not set where you have to make something happen. Things are going to happen throughout a season. You're going to run into problems, and you have to deal with them. And I like to deal with them individually. But as far as rules go, mine is effort is number one. When we practice, we're going to practice hard.
And that's spelled out right from the beginning, the get-go, kind of when you address the team from the start of the year, so that they know exactly what they're getting into?
It is. Again, we come back to being honest with your group. When I say practice hard, there's some days where we might practice hard, but it might be 20 minutes. There might be days where it's going to be an hour and 15, but it's the effort level is going to be there. They know right from day one, we spell that out. And there's obviously other things we talk about, but effort's always going to be consistent.
You talked about how, Mike Johnson, I would say for lack of a better term, empowered you in a lot of ways by delegating and letting you do some things. As a head coach now, how much do you do that, and how much do you rely on a guy like Nolan Baumgartner or let him go so that he can gain the trust and respect and take the load off you so maybe you can do some other things?
Well, a lot. I look at the whole coaching staff as one. I know everyone, it ends up ultimately that people talk about the head coach, but for me it's a team. Your coaching staff is just like a team, just like your players are. I believe coaches, all of you have to have responsibility. I give each coach one of the special teams. When it comes to putting practice together, we discuss it as a group. I want feedback. I want to be challenged. I think if you have a coach that's just does everything on his own or too much on his own, you run into problems. Sometimes you don't see everything. And if you have good coaches and you have a good team chemistry, you can trust each other and lean on each other when times are hard.
And I guess, too, by delegating, that the message becomes a little fresher, and maybe they don't start to tune you out as a head coach.
For sure. We talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. And, I want the whole staff selling the Kool-Aid. And it's not just our coaches, it's our strength coach, our trainers, our equipment manager. I really believe that whole group has to be tight-knit. Everyone's speaking the same language, or else you're going to run into people talking behind, maybe this is too hard, I don't agree with that. And if you have if you're not tight with your group, you might have an equipment manager that all of a sudden is talking the player's language and not your language. And I really believe in that, and that's how you get your message through from all over the organization.